Hi there. This is Sarah Talbot, ready to share with you about moving, renovating, moving with kids, moving with babies, buying, selling, all that fun stuff. I'm ready to be real with you and share my own experiences so that hopefully you can find encouragement. As I walked you through this first video, it is the house before we ever moved in, before we started a single project, before there was one box or cat or dog or child in it. It was like clean and empty. And so it's kind of neat and crazy even for me to watch it back of how far we've come. Before we get into that, a little history about us and our house hunting experience. So, a lot of times I think people will start house hunting and they need to move and they need to move now and they need to move fast for whatever reason life has thrown your way. And then there are some of us shoppers who don't necessarily need to move right away, but we look online and we browse, and it's like, if the right one came along, then maybe we would move, yada, yada. That was probably more so us. And the house that we're in is not that house that got us to look. So, this house that we're about to walk you through, Chateau Novella, as we call her, I didn't even really want to look at this one when it first was listed. And at the same time, you'll see as we pull up into the driveway here, it has something really special about it. I mean, we would drive by this house before it was ever even for sale and just pause and look at it because it is unique. It has this castle-like feel from the street with a brick long driveway and another little carriage house in the back, and it just kind of makes you pause and like, "Whoa, this is different." And it's a little bit out of place in the neighborhood even though it was the first one built in the neighborhood. But yeah, I just had no interest in it to live in, even though it was kinda neat to see from the street. Yeah, this yard is gonna be a ton of work, and do we really want all this extra work in our lives? And I believe that was one of the biggest reasons that I was not even wanting to see it. I was looking for less work in my life after having so many kids and animals, but that's okay. Alright, so we're walking in. And I gotta tell you, the minute I walked into this foyer, I was like, "Whoa, this is pretty cool." I think I changed my mind about the house literally the minute I walked in the door. It just felt special. It was almost the opposite of the house that we lost, where it all looked right and hit all the lists, but it just didn't feel right. This one didn't hit all those list points, but it felt right. So sometimes in house hunting, that's why it's important to just get out there and look at things that you didn't even think that you were gonna want, because you get into a house and you feel the, for lack of a better word, the vibe or the energy of the house, because they all just have a little bit of a different feel to them. So the feel of this house, loved it. And I didn't quite know what we were gonna do with the space or how we were gonna lay it out or what this room, even how it was gonna be designed. I knew that It was dark and cold. Not cold at the time we saw it, but that room did get cold. It, like, was not even insulated, so, yeah, it was just kinda complicated in figuring out, like, "Okay, what do I do with all this?" The location was perfect. I will say, when they tell you location, 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 there is truth to that because the location of this one was definitely perfect. The space, I knew there was space, but I just didn't know quite how it was gonna be used. So, what ended up happening, this room is the den, as you can see, and ended up bringing the laundry space down into this little corner where there was a wet bar. So having the plumbing there is when you know, like, okay, you can move plumbing areas to plumbing areas and not spend too much money. Those doors on the wet bar, 2 sets of doors, there's tall ones and shorter ones. When we were gutting that area, I saved those doors, and I'm excited to show you what I ended up doing with them because when you're doing a project like this, especially in an old house, you're gonna have times where you have, like, this piece that comes out. Maybe it's an old window. Like I said, these were doors. They were very unique. You might have handles or something. Hold on to stuff because you just never know. I wish the whoever replaced the crank out windows, I'll show you the window when we come back through. But anyway, somewhere along the line, someone replaced beautiful French doors with windows, which made no sense at all. I wish they would have saved the original French doors, but they didn't. Save your stuff because you just never know. Here is what the kitchen originally looked like. The kitchen was, to me, kind of disappointing just because the house we were coming from was really big. I don't know if I mentioned yet that I have 6 kids. My husband has 3 kids. That together is 9 kids. We need a big, big kitchen. We love to socialize, we love to have people over. The kids have 20 friends at a time sometimes. So, we needed a big, big kitchen. And I didn't love that this one was kinda, like, tucked in the back of the house either. So, I had to figure out, like, how do we get a bigger kitchen? And of course, the immediate thought was to just take over the world's biggest laundry room that we have here. I mean, this would have been perfect. Saw this, I was like, "What in the world? Where was this when I was a homeschool parent?" Because I used to homeschool, and this would have been a dream room because when you're homeschooling, you have, like, a ridiculous amount of laundry all the time, and I could have put a craft table there, and all those cabinets would have been perfect, whatever, different phase of life. Didn't need it for homeschooling. But we could have used, obviously, a whole lot of this space and expanded that kitchen into this space. I don't know. Actually, what I would have done is where that washer and dryer are, the wall would have come over, and we could have had a smaller laundry room, and this awkward shower just would have still been in there, but ended up making this whole side of the house our first floor primary bedroom. You're gonna see all that and how it came to fruition. All right. Now we're in a little sunroom, which is the saddest sunroom in America. Literally never gets any rays of sun at all. And quite frankly, it's just used as a storage space with a bunch of junk because it's real life. And where else are you going to hide all your junk than the weird little room in the back of the house that gets no sun? Someday it'll be pretty, right? All right, so types of houses that I have renovated and or lived in the past. I have done the first one was an 1,100 square foot little cottage on the lake in Luna Pier. It was a perfect starter project because it was mostly cosmetic. I didn't have to reconfigure a layout or anything crazy like this. It was on the small side, so it's a lot easier to budget and plan when a house is smaller versus bigger because when it's bigger and complex, you get into things that you didn't realize, such as in this house, there were 1, 2, 3, there are 5 fireplaces, 4 chimneys, all of which needed work, and those are expensive. So, if you are gonna start with a fixer-upper project of some sort, I do highly recommend starting as small as you possibly can. Give it a test. See if you even like renovating. You might discover that it's killing your life and not worth it at all. And or you might be like me and love every second. Now, That doesn't mean I didn't get burnt out because, like I said, I didn't want another fixer-upper, but here we are. All right, so another house I renovated was one that was in Lorain, Ohio, also on the lake, and it was originally like a 4,400 square foot house that someone had tried to turn into or maybe they did succeed at turning it into a 4-unit complex. When we bought it, the homeowners were turning it back into a house, but they had left a whole bunch of unfinished projects. So they had rooms that were gutted, and honestly, it sounded like their renovation project literally cost them their marriage, and they ended up getting divorced, which is why they ended up selling. That is why I say renovating is not for everyone, okay? Make sure you can finish a project that you begin. That would be step number 1. Don't start more projects than you can finish. So that house, I will say, that was the first time buying a house that had rooms that were already gutted, and when I say gutted, that means the drywall is off. We are seeing down to the wood, studs inside the wall, the actual framing of the walls. You can see the electric wires, you can see it all, or you can see the absence of electric wires. But to be perfectly honest, I would take buying a gutted house over one that you're hoping there's not insanity behind the walls any day. If you are looking for a project house, don't be afraid of the ones that don't even have walls because the ones without walls, they're doing you a blessing. You are seeing what's inside the walls. And then you also get a chance to truly configure however you want your electric to be, et cetera, without spending a whole lot of extra money because it's already all open. So, anyways, that was that house. I also lived in a church, an old church. Now, that house could have been way cooler than I made it, but due to budgeting, and that was a house that I ended up being a single mom of 6 kids in, the kids and I living in the church house. But we loved it. We loved it. It was so fun living in an old church. Okay, there's a few other things that I'm just going to cut out for the sake of speeding the tour along. Let's walk downstairs. Oh, these windows that we are about to walk out. Literally, this is a window. Let's walk out the window because someone replaced doors with giant windows. But that's okay. What else are you going to see as we unfold? The house came with that giant hot tub pool thingy. We didn't really love it. So you're going to see how that got removed out of the wall that you cannot see because it's covered in behind bushes that were overgrown by probably 20 years. So you'll get to see that wall get revealed and all the fun things. The lessons that I learned were probably most important, though. I mean, we love a renovation, right? We love these projects. We love this magical feel through the courtyard. How cool and fun is this? It is like the legit secret garden where you're just walking through and it's like, what used to be here? What was this all about? And it just makes you wonder and curiosity and all the good stuff. It is special and magical, and we do wanna watch, like, how did this unfold and what happened, and why is it that we are so drawn to these renovation stories? Why is it that we truly get excited about old things becoming new again? I do believe that part of it is because when we see new life happening and maybe even something like a house, it gives us a piece of hope that new life can happen in us too. And so as we go through this, I am going to be sharing my personal faith journey because there was a time that I was as broken as the most broken home that you could imagine. And honestly, I became a realtor because of the ugliest, most broken home on the planet. I fell in love with that ugly, broken house, and it was like, if I can love this ugly, broken house and feel like there's hope for it and feel like it can be restored, what house don't I love? I'm a big believer in new stories for our homes and new stories for our hearts, new stories for our lives. We can go through some hard things. We can be in the actual legit graveyard of life. And as I'm saying that, look, zoom in to these graveyard rock and roll hands that are emerging out of the weeds and wait until you see what was buried under all those weeds. I'm super excited to show you. But the ultimate goal of me doing these videos, I want you to know that you can have a new story. The new story is not just about the house being renovated. And novella, that name, Chateau Novella, means new story. My husband, when he and I met each other, I believe that we were each other's new story. But because of the hard things I've gone through and being, like I was saying, in the graveyard of life, I gave up on my faith completely for a while. I believed that there was still a God and that there was something bigger and out there, but I did forfeit the concept of Jesus and the concept of the Bible because I was raised to believe in it. And I thought maybe I only believe in this stuff because it's what I was taught and trained to believe, and maybe it's not real. And so I did experience that graveyard season of life without my faith in Christ. It didn't help anything at all. It's interesting how, like, going through the hardest times caused me to start researching the brain, and my research of the brain led to my faith in Jesus deepening because I couldn't figure out my own freaking brain through those hard things. And I was fascinated because I'm like, everything that I'm reading are the teachings that Jesus used to teach people. And it's probably not a coincidence that he knew what we should do for healing, right? I plan to be balanced in sharing my faith, sharing my family, sharing things about fitness as we share about this home. Thanks for watching. And when we get into it next, I'll be answering everyone's biggest question when I got started with this project was where do you begin? And you're going to see when we first moved in, because we've lived in this house during the renovations, you're gonna see boxes and boxes and boxes and figuring out where do I even get started and not have a mental breakdown in the process, or maybe just have some occasional breakdowns sometimes, but finish, and that's all that matters. All right, stay tuned.